My name is Cássia. I'm 39 years old, and for 15 of those years, I've been married. We have two children, Lucas, who is 18, and Clara, 20. Both are away at university. I had my daughter when I was just 19, and I've been with my husband, Bruno, since we were in high school. Our lives entered a new, quieter chapter when the children left for college. Bruno works a grueling 10-hour day to afford us our peaceful life in a gated community in the São Paulo countryside, while I've dedicated myself to raising the children and managing our home. By all accounts, everything in my family was fine. I was happy, my children were happy, and I believe my husband was too. He is still the man I have loved most in my life, and I know I always will, no matter what happens. My love for him feels infinite, and I've told him so many times. Right now, however, I'm at my parents' house, in a coastal city in the Northeast. I'm here with my sister, who is separated from her husband and her three children. It all began with a phone call from my mother. She was sick, recently diagnosed with a bone disease. I spoke with Bruno about it. With our last child finally off to college, I was alone in the house, and he had a month of vacation coming up. We decided it would do me good to spend a few days visiting my parents and helping care for my mother. We agreed he would handle the household chores I usually took care of. A few days later, I was on my way. When I arrived in my hometown, 5 years after my last visit, I was struck by how much had changed. The place had become a tourist hotspot, with heavy investment to attract visitors from all over the country and the world. At home, I caught up on everything. The next day, I went out with my sisters and nephews to explore the new sights. Some old friends, who had lived in the city their entire lives, reached out to me. Now that I was back, we all met at a coffee shop, and the afternoon was filled with laughter. It had been so long since I'd seen them. With the influx of tourists came more bars and nightclubs. There were suddenly so many more places for men and women to go out and have fun. My friends invited me to a bar for drinks, just like old times. I had told my husband I would stay for a week, maybe two, if the situation with my mother required it. I declined their invitation. What, I thought, would a 39-year-old married woman be doing in a bar at night? For the first few days, I spoke with my husband for over an hour every night. It was the first time we had ever spent so much time apart. But I say the first few days because after that, we started running out of things to say. The calls grew shorter, and sometimes he would fall asleep while we were talking. I understood. He came home exhausted from work. It was only natural he couldn't talk for that long. My parents and nephews went to bed early, but my sister would stay up with me, filling me in on everything that had happened in my absence. We had never really discussed her separation, but now that we were spending so much time together, she decided to tell me how her marriage had ended. They had lived in a house just a few miles from my parents. After years of marriage, her husband started acting differently. He criticized her appearance, telling her she'd lost her figure, that she didn't wear makeup like she used to, that she had let herself go. He, on the other hand, began to dress better than ever. He bought new perfumes, new clothes. He sold their old car and bought a modern one. Rumors began to circulate among her friends. She suspected something was wrong, but she didn't want to face the truth. My sister ignored the signs until one day she saw him in his car in a supermarket parking lot. kissing another woman. She lost control. She grabbed a rock and smashed it against the car. After the woman ran off, my sister chased her down and unleashed all her fury. Her husband and his mistress pressed charges for assault, and she was arrested. In the end, no one followed through with the complaint, and she was released. Her husband moved in with the other woman, but he left the house and car to my sister and paid child support for their daughters. She sold the house and moved back in with our parents. Even back when they were dating, people had said there were strange things about him, but we women often believe we can fix a broken man. My stay extended into a second week. I went out with my friends again to another coffee shop. This time, there were French tourists in the cafe. One of them approached one of my friends. I knew she was married, but she flirted with him anyway. To my other friends, this was perfectly normal. While their husbands were at work, they went out to have fun with the tourists. The men did it too, as did the younger girls. But as everyone knows, it's easier for us to get a man's attention. A group of the man's friends were at another table, watching us. A few of my friends exchanged glances and smiles with them. Soon, they came over and invited us for a drink. I felt a knot of nerves in my stomach. I was deeply uncomfortable, but I can't deny it was also exciting. Meeting handsome men from another country, it felt like I was young again. That same rush of adrenaline, an emotion I hadn't felt in years. It was a dangerous feeling for a married woman. One of them noticed me. He smiled and tried to speak to me. He attempted an introduction, and his clumsy effort to speak my language made me laugh. I corrected his pronunciation, and just like that, a conversation began that lasted for over an hour. We exchanged phone numbers and said goodbye with a kiss on each cheek. I won't lie, it left an impression on me. It stirred an excitement I hadn't felt in years. I went home trying to hide the giddy smile on my face. To my parents and my sister, I was just having a quiet coffee because I was a respectable married woman with children in college and a husband who loved me dearly. What on earth was happening to me? How could I forget my husband for a man who would only be here for a few days? That night, my husband called, and I told him I might stay another week. I hadn't even finished my second week, but I was already planning a third. In my calls with him, I started lying about what I was doing, even about my mother's health, which was my supposed reason for staying. She was stable now, on the right medication. She was going to be fine, and my sister was more than capable of caring for her alone. The man I'd met was named Francois, and he told me he lived in Paris. He asked me out, even though he had seen my wedding ring. He texted me that night, writing in French, and I had to translate every word. He told me he found me beautiful, stunning. He said my smile was like a cool breeze he liked to remember when he felt the heat. He wrote things full of double meanings and hidden suggestions. I never told him to stop because I loved it. It made my head spin. I returned his compliments, telling him I liked his French accent and the way he pronounced my name. At that moment, I didn't think I was doing anything wrong. I told myself it was just messages, that it would end there. But deep inside, a need to see the French tourist began to grow. We went out with my friends again, to the same coffee shop. I told Francois I would be there. He and his friends arrived, and we quickly broke away from the group. We went outside to talk, sitting on a bench. He asked about my ring. I told him I'd left it at home. He understood the message. A few seconds later, he kissed me. My heart felt like it would explode. He pulled back, looked at me, and then wrapped his arms around me. We sat in silence, and this time, I kissed him. I looked at him as he caressed my face, and then he proposed we go to a motel. A cold sweat broke out over my skin. All the excitement, the adrenaline, the beautiful moment, it vanished in an instant. I told him no, I couldn't do that, and I ran, leaving him sitting there on the bench. In the taxi on the way home, he texted me, "Forgive me, Cássia. I was a fool to suggest that. I didn't mean to be disrespectful. You seem like such a beautiful and noble woman. I regret being so impulsive. I will understand if you don't want to reply. I just want you to know that I had an incredible time with you. You are the best company I've ever had." I was tempted to reply, to tell him to wait for me, that I was coming back, but I was terrified of crossing that line. The kiss alone already made me feel sick with guilt over my husband. I got home and could barely eat. My sister asked if I was okay. I said I was fine, but she didn't believe a word of it. She had never approved of these outings with my friends and had warned me to be careful. Later that night, there was a knock on my bedroom door. I told her to come in. She sat on my bed and asked what had happened. My silence was all the answer she needed. "You're seeing someone, aren't you?" she said. "You should stop." "I am." I already told him we shouldn't continue. "How far did it go, Cássia?" "Just kisses, hugs. You know what you have to lose, don't you?" "Yes," I whispered. "I know. That's why I'm not going to see him again." She believed me and went to bed. I didn't reply to Francois. I deleted our chat and let the days pass. At night, I continued to talk to Bruno, but I felt uneasy. I was consumed by guilt. I started to question my feelings for him. There was such a vast difference between Bruno, my husband, and Francois. After 5 minutes on the phone with Bruno, I couldn't think of anything else to say. I found it hard to tell him I missed him. The weight on my conscience was immense. I told him I was ready to come home, but wanted to stay one more week to make it a full month. He said he needed me at home, that he missed me. Any other time, I would have immediately said I missed him too and couldn't wait to be by his side. But ever since the kiss with Francois, I wasn't the same person. He asked if everything was all right. I said yes. It was just that being here after so long had brought back a lot of memories, and a few more days would help lift my spirits. He was silent for a moment, then just said, "Okay, Cássia," and hung up. After that day, nothing was the same. The third week came to an end. 6 days had passed without seeing Francois. I dreamt of the kiss I had given him. As the days went by, my guilt began to fade, and I felt calmer. Then, I received a message from him, and my heart began to pound. I was talking with my sister at the time, and I could barely wait for the conversation to end so I could read it. I contained my anxiety until she said she had to pick up her kids. The moment she left, I ran to my room. The message said he was leaving that afternoon, that he was sitting on the bench where I had left him. It was a farewell message. I didn't have to respond, but it's human nature, isn't it? When we feel we're losing something, we fight to hold on to it. I texted back that I wanted to say goodbye in person. He replied, "I'll be waiting, beautiful." Every emotion in the world exploded inside me. I ran out of the house and was there in a taxi in under 7 minutes. I saw him sitting on the bench. He saw me and stood up. I took his face in my hands and kissed him. After, I asked if he wanted to go somewhere more private. "Let's go to my hotel," he said. We went. We were intimate for hours. My sister called, but I turned off my phone. In a moment of calm, I was ready to do something crazy. I told him to take me with him. I was willing to leave my husband for a foreign man I had known for only a few days. He looked at me, got out of bed, and started getting dressed, muttering something in French I didn't understand. Then he said, "Beautiful Cássia, I am married, just like you, and I love my wife. My vacation is over, and I have to go back to her. I thought you loved your husband too." I was paralyzed in the bed. "You're married?" I asked. "Yes, I am. I thought you knew." "I didn't know. I thought I thought you were looking for a wife." He let out a short, sharp laugh. I felt a wave of shame wash over me. "Get dressed. You need to go. My flight leaves in an hour." I felt utterly humiliated. He was practically kicking me out of his room. I had given myself to him, asked him to take me away, and he couldn't even be bothered with a gentle goodbye. He just opened the door and all but pushed me out before closing it behind me. So many feelings swirled through my mind. I had created a bond between us that had never existed. I don't know why I did it. I just imagined we had something special. I was devastated. He had used me. As I walked out onto the street, I hailed a taxi and went back to the bench where he had waited for me. I sat down and I cried. It had been so long since I'd had an encounter like that. I had forgotten certain things, like the fact that some relationships are only about intimacy, and this had been one of them. When I got home, my sister was waiting. She took one look at my face and knew everything. "You did it, didn't you?" she asked. "Yes," I whispered. From my tear-streaked makeup, she knew it hadn't gone as I'd hoped. "He was married, wasn't he?" "Yes." "Cássia, what did you think would happen? That he would stay with you?" "Yes," I admitted. "I did." "Go take a shower, Cássia." There were 4 days left until the end of the month. I avoided my husband's calls until the very last day, when I told him I was coming home. In those days, all I thought about was Francois. I had forgotten my husband. The life I had with him suddenly seemed so lacking in emotion. Don't get me wrong, my life with my husband was good. But what I felt with Francois was incredible. It ended badly, but it made me feel things I hadn't felt in a very long time. And that, I've come to realize, is the greatest problem with marriages today. There are things that slip away in the currents of life. I know that when a woman marries, those fleeting sparks often fade into the past. Children take precedence, as do the home and the husband. But it is he who forgets that we crave the revival of passion, the thrill of being desired as in our courting days. I returned home, my mind a chaotic storm, unsure how to react or what to say. Exhaustion weighed on me like a shroud. My husband waited, greeting me with a warm embrace and a kiss that I returned with muted enthusiasm. He poured a chilled drink, and we settled in to talk. In that moment, he felt like a stranger, as if I harbored no feelings for him at all. I spun false tales of my trip to fill the void, having conveniently erased from my thoughts the days I'd avoided him. In my mind, it simply hadn't happened. I announced I was going to bathe, and he offered no response. As I ascended the stairs and began to prepare, he appeared behind me before I reached the bathroom, startling me. He guided me to the bed, slipped off my robe, and drew me into his arms. My breath came in rapid gasps, my heart pounding wildly, as if I might faint. When his hands touched my back, shivers coursed through me uncontrollably. He sensed it. "What's wrong?" he asked. Terrified, I met his gaze and unwittingly betrayed myself. I pulled away, a instinctive act of self-protection I'd never employed before. He studied me and declared, "Something happened, and you'll tell me now. You've been distant for the past 2 weeks. You'll confess what you did, or I'll uncover it myself. You know I can." On my journey back, I'd contemplated what might unfold if guilt overwhelmed me and I confessed my infidelity, clinging to a fragile hope of forgiveness. "Bruno, I had an affair?" The words barely escaped my lips before he struck me hard across the face. He dragged me from the bathroom by my hair into the bedroom, hurled my clothes at me, and barked, "Get dressed." Terror gripped me. I trembled in fear. "Hurry!" he shouted. Through sobs, I dressed as swiftly as possible. Before I could even finish with my shoes, he seized my arm and pulled me downstairs, thrust open the door, and shoved me outside. "This is your place now," he said, slamming it shut as I broke into tears. Arguing with Bruno in that state was futile. I was too frightened. I wandered the streets, weeping, until I found a friend. I begged her to help me contact our children. They attended the same school as hers. I explained that their father had cast me out, and I needed to go to my parents' home, though I withheld the reason. They called him, then phoned me back. My daughter rang, her voice choked with sobs, asking if his words were true. "I'm sorry, Clara. Forgive me," I pleaded. She cried out, "How could you do this to them?" My son didn't call. He texted that he and his sister were on their way. 3 hours later, they arrived, their faces etched with pain. I felt the sting of shame, humiliation, and judgment in their eyes. They spoke with their father first, learning how his suspicions had grown and how he'd tried to draw me back. "Mom, what were you thinking?" my daughter asked. "I don't know, my love. It just happened," I replied. "Just happened?" my son echoed. "Do you realize what you've done? He didn't deserve this. He gave you everything. He's the best father in the world." To them, I was wholly at fault, and they believed every word their father said, just as I knew it was true. "Did you fall in love with him, Mom?" my daughter pressed. My silence answered for me. "Okay, I don't want to hear more," she said. She retrieved my belongings, and my son arranged a plane ticket. They couldn't accompany me due to exams. I sought their forgiveness, insisting on my remorse. They granted it, but only to soothe me. They drove me to the airport, and I returned to my parents' house. I confided in my sister, and we agreed to keep quiet for now, explaining my presence as Bruno being away on business, returning in a week. I spoke with my children briefly each day. Eventually, I told my parents of the separation. They were stunned, but optimistic we'd reconcile. My sister took me to a therapist. In over a month, I began to unravel my actions. My feelings for Francois ebbed away gradually. By the third month, I recognized the sheer folly of my choices. The emotions I'd buried for my husband resurfaced, and I grasped the torment I'd inflicted during those 2 weeks when he sensed my distance. I'd shattered our home. I hadn't seen my children in over 3 months. I attempted to reach Bruno, but he ignored my calls, sending divorce papers instead. I refused to sign them without speaking to him. 2 weeks later, my children visited. They talked to him, and he declared no reconciliation was possible. He revealed that when he called, I was already involved with another, an unforgivable betrayal. My children were shocked by his transformation. In the first month of our split, he joined a program for men who'd endured similar pain, dedicating himself to self-improvement. Now, he shares his journey on social media, recounting his experience with my infidelity. I watch his videos in secret, leaving comments and feeling pangs of jealousy at the responses from other women. In just 3 months, he's moved on, dating a coworker. With my illusion of Francois dissolved, regret consumes me. Bruno isn't pressing for the divorce. He's forging ahead with his life. I haven't ventured out in nearly 4 months. I lack the desire. I know solace is fleeting, and something like what I shared with Bruno is rare. I'm not ready for a new relationship. This is a trying path, but I must endure it. I won't contest assets, alimony, the house, or the car. Our children are adults, and he'll continue funding their education. Here with my parents, I have all I need. They've secured my future with their inheritance. I'll seek employment or start a business to occupy myself. For now, I focus on caring for them and spending time with my sister and her children. I still follow Bruno's videos. He's become a different man. It pains me that he mentioned me only briefly in one, describing the agony of his suspicions. Many questioned why he didn't intervene, and he replied that if I couldn't honor our commitment and cherish what we had of my own accord, he couldn't force it. He admitted his reaction was misguided and that he regretted how he treated me, urging others not to follow suit. And with that, he moved on, speaking of me no more. Lately, he's shared that he's dating a colleague and they're exploring a deeper connection, enjoying their time together. It's painful to call him my ex-husband. I still love him, though I lost my way and wounded him deeply. I'm open to rebuilding with Bruno if he ever wishes. We shared years that can't be erased so easily. I know I forgot our life together, but it was only for a few days, and I believe I deserve another chance. I'll keep watching his videos, commenting, and defending him from criticism. Only time will reveal what comes next.